Una pruebita. ¿Quién presenta? Una pruebita. ¿Quién presenta? Una pruebita. ¿Quién presenta? Se pone boogie. Y mira que se pone. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 yeah. Chacho. Se pone salamera. Qué linda como se goza. Oye, y realmente como la ola. Realmente como la ola. Se pone cosa.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Musa with Social Dance Mastery. This is our second edition in our On2 salsa musicality webinar series. Thank you for coming. Just say something in the chat so I know that you can hear me, so that I know everything's working. If you're here, if you're joining us, this is our second episode of our On2 webinar series. So I want to thank everybody for being here. And we're going to get right into it. I want to let everybody know that this episode is all about the essential music theory for On2 dancing. So we're going to get into a lot of stuff. I'm really excited for what we're going to talk about. Just a recap of what we did last week. We went over the history of On2 and contratiempo timing. So we talked about the colonial era, we talked about the classic era, and we talked about the modern era of On2 salsa. And this is just a way to give a foundation and a historical context as to why we dance On2 and why it's a thing and where it comes from and the meaning behind On2. So if you missed that episode, I do have links for that you can check out. Just let me know if you want that link. This whole webinar series is designed to help you master On2 quicker. And the reason why this works is because it's an integrated approach. It's not just about teaching the steps. It's about teaching in a holistic way the whole vision of On2, and so that when you do learn it, you're well-rounded and it's integrated into your body. So this webinar, we're going to go over the European and African music theory concepts. We're going to go over specific music theory concepts. And then we're also going to go over practical music theory applications that you can use when you go out social dancing. So just a little bit about me, if anybody doesn't know me, I'm a dancer, I'm an educator and a musician. So this really gives me an advantage on showing people about On2, because I have all these different perspectives all combined in one to really help people get what On2 is. And I use what's called the elemental movement model. This is a coaching structure that I use to teach dancers about the different aspects of Afro-Latin social dancing, from the foundations to social dancing to performing and also to teaching. So this is a holistic model, and I focus a lot on the foundations because it really helps dancers integrate their movements as they grow through their movement journey, right? So usually when people teach these Afro-Latin dances, they usually start with the steps. But what I start with is I start with the cultural context, and then I move into musicality to get people embodied in with their coordination, their timing, and their rhythm. And then after that, then I get into the steps. And by the time you get into the steps, you're already so integrated into the culture. The rhythms are already integrated into your body. So it makes things so much easier than just starting with the steps. So if you stay until the end of this webinar, I do have an offer for you for our On2 Accelerator course that we're starting in July. So make sure you stay to the end of this so you can check out this offer. So I just want to check out the people who are here, who have joined, and I want to ask you a question. So put your, okay, I see Kia's here. Peace, Kia. Thanks for coming. So this is a question for everyone. I want to see your ideas on this before we get started into this content. What are the benefits of understanding music theory as a social dancer? So just write in the chat what your ideas are about this. I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you feel about this. How can understanding music theory help you as a dancer? So I'll give you a little bit of time to do that. Thank you to everybody for joining. Okay, perfect. So some of the main three ways that music theory can really help dancers is to interpret the music. Oh, Kia just responded. Here's something from Kia. 1 second. Kia says it will really help with my musicality and not just learning the steps to the counts, but the music. Yes, exactly. Not just learning the steps. I feel like the steps, this is all part of a whole, right? So the steps are part of the whole. So if we actually take the time to integrate the whole, it really makes us well-rounded social dancers, and it helps in our growth process as dancers. It really empowers us as well, and it builds confidence. So thank you for that, Kia. So here's some other benefits for understanding music theory as a social dancer. It helps to interpret the music. So whenever a song comes on and you want to interpret that song with your expression, if you understand the language of the song, if you understand the song's composition, if you understand the song's arrangement, your ability to interpret the song on the dance floor increases tremendously. So that's one benefit. Another benefit is navigation of songs. So for example, if a song comes on, usually a song is about 3.5 minutes, right? And through that song, through one song is like a journey, right? There's the intro, that from the intro to the outro, a lot happens in between, and it's like a whole journey. And if you understand, for example, song structure, then you're really able to navigate a song with ease, and you're able to have fun within a song, within any song that comes on. And then the last thing is connection. It really helps to understanding music theory really helps to connect with the music, to connect with the meaning of the songs, with the vibe of the song, with the pace of the song, with the tempo of the song. In a sense, you become the song. And this is something that's very interesting that I experience as a social dancer. When I really understand these concepts, it doesn't matter what song comes on, I just become the song. So I can listen to a song that I've never heard before. A DJ can play a song that I've never heard, or a band can play a song arrangement that I've never heard. But when I'm dancing with that song, it's almost like I've heard it. It's almost like I listened to it 50 times. The music becomes ingrained into the body, and it's such a magical experience. And when you share that with others in the dance floor, it just amplifies. So these are three ways that understanding music theory as a social dancer is so important. So thank you everybody for coming. We're gonna get into this content section of music theory. So I want to just start this and okay, so let's get right into our central music theory for On2 dancing. Now, when it comes to music theory, this is very important because music theory, in a nutshell, it's all about how we conceptualize the way we listen to music, whether that's how we visualize it, how we think about it, how we talk about it. This is all music theory. But when it comes to music theory, usually the focus is put on European context of music theory, basically a European conceptual model of how to think about music. This is why when music is taught, it's usually taught when you learn how to read sheet music, you learn about all the different terms that are in Italian, such as fortissimo, legato. You learn about all the different note values, such as quarter note, half note, eighth note. And this is important, but when it comes to salsa, it gets a little interesting because we have to remember that we're dealing with the fusion of cultures. So we're not only going to have the context of the European conceptualization of music, we're also going to have the context of the African conceptualization of music as well that's incorporated into the whole. So in this content section, we're going to talk about both European conceptualizations of music theory and African conceptualizations of music theory. Some of the interesting African conceptualizations of music theory include things like polyrhythm, which is very important in West African music, the ability to incorporate many instruments at once. Another thing is syncopation. When all these instruments are playing at once, they play on the on and off beats. So this is a concept of syncopation. Another concept of African musical theory is call and response, where you have sort of like a dialogue between instruments. So we're going to talk about both of those things so we can really get a good foundation as to the music theory that's involved when it comes to On2 salsa. So now the first thing we're going to talk about is more of a European conceptualization of music theory, and this is called time signature. And time signature, if you've never heard of time signature, or if this is your first time seeing this, it might seem a little weird. It took me some time to really wrap my head around it, but it's basically the pulse of a certain beat. It's how the pulse sounds and how the pulse is suggesting that it sounds to your ear. So for example, most of the music that we hear is in 4/4 time, which is called common time. In this 4/4 time, right here, you can see the time signature is indicated by, it looks like a fraction with a 4 on the top and a 4 on the bottom. And this is what the time signature looks like. And both of those numbers represent a value of that specific bar or measure of music. So when it comes to 4/4 time, the pulse is going to have 4 beats within each measure, meaning you're going to have 4 beats hitting within each space. And those spaces are going to repeat over and over again, which will create the pulse that I'm talking about. So this 4/4 time signature pulse, it sounds like this. Da, 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 da. So you see, I just did 4 measures for you. Each measure included 4 beats within it. Let me try that one more time. I'm just going to do 2 measures this time. Da, 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 da. So this is the pulse that this bar of music is suggesting. And now this is going to include all salsa music. Is going to be primarily in 4/4 time. So if you can really get that feel of 4/4 time, you can really get into salsa, as well as bachata is all in 4/4 time. Now the next time signature that we can see is 3/4 time. Now, if you look at the fraction has changed, and now we have 3 on top, 4 on the bottom. So what does that mean? It means that we're going to have 3 beats within each space of time. And each one of those beats are going to be a quarter note. So this is how you read time signature. But really, all you want to really know when it comes to this, you don't have to get too deep into this. You just have to know how to feel the pulse of each of these time signatures. So for example, this time signature 3/4, it sounds like this. Da, 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 da. So can you hear that? How I gave 3 beats within each repetition. Each space of time within those repetition had 3 beats inside of it. Now, if I were to actually sound out this notation that we have right here, it sounds like this. Da, 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 da. So this is an example of the pulse, of the feel, or what they might say the meter of 3/4 time. 3/4 time, commonly you'll hear a lot of waltzes have 3/4 feel to it. The quick, slow type of feel is which is in waltz and some ballads. The next time signature that we're going to show you is 2/4. Now the fraction has changed again, but only the top number from 3 has changed to 2. So now we're going to have 2 beats within each amount of space. And this sounds like this. Da, 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 da. And what does that what does that pulse sound like? It sounds like merengue. So this is an example of like all merengue, you know that that's going to be in 2/4 time. The last one that we're going to talk about is 6/8 time. And 6/8 time does come into salsa when it comes to some of the more African rhythms that are incorporated into the 4/4 time. In certain sections within a salsa song, you might hear 6/8 time. So 6/8 time, let's just go back to our fraction right here, and we have 6/8. So we know that there's going to be 6 beats within that frame of time. And each one of those beats now is going to be an 8th note. So I'm just going to show you just how this pulse sounds. It sounds like this. Da 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 da. So this is an example of a 6/8 time signature. Now, if you ever have problems finding the 1, which is important to be able to find the 2, we have to know where we are contextually within the time signature. We have to know when our measure begins, and that will give us the 1. Once we have the 1, then we can automatically locate where that 2 will be. And this is to note about time signature really helps to know how to locate the 1 and how to find it. So what we're going to do right now, here's a little test for you. Okay, I'm going to play a song. This is going to be just a random song. I'm going to play this song, and I want you to listen to the pulse of the song, and I want you to pick which time signature you think this song is. Okay, this will really test your ear. This will really test your concept of time signature. Listen to this song and listen for the pulse of it and see if you can detect which time signature this song is landing in.
And you got me like, girl, what you want from me? What you want from me? And try to buy your pretty heart with a price too high. Baby, you got me like, oh.
Okay, so if you got 3/4 time signature, then you're correct. This song is all in 3/4 time signature. So remember, the 3/4 time signature has a 3-beat pulse, a 3 beats that reoccur and repeat over and over in a loop, and that's what gives it that 3/4 feel. Da 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 da. So now I'm gonna play one more song, and this is gonna be more of an Afro Latin song, and I want you to feel the pulse of this song and let me know which of these time signatures you feel like this song is. All right, so if you got 6/8 time, then you're correct. This song is in 6/8 time. And a lot of the times when you have some of the more African rhythms, they will use 6/8 timing. And within salsa, even though salsa is primarily in 4/4 timing, there are sections of the salsa song where you can have different time signatures within the song. And we'll get into that later. Okay, so now that we talked about some of the more European musical conceptual ideas, such as time signature, now we're going to get into a more of an African conceptual idea of music theory. And one of the African conceptual ideas of music theory is a concept called tumbao. And tumbao is very important because it's how we integrate all the different rhythms within a salsa song. You know that within a salsa band, you can have more than 10 instruments playing all at the same time. So, how does this work? How do you have all these different sounds, all these different instruments, all these different personalities of musicians? How can they all come together in harmony and in unison? Well, it works with the concept of tumbao. And what is the concept of tumbao? The concept of tumbao is all about having a specific rhythmic structure that repeats over and over again. And basically, each person has their own rhythm. And when these rhythms come together, they create a whole. So basically, it's like one rhythm is sounds like this, and you take out some things, but the things that you take out are added to the other person's rhythm. So now that person is playing the space between that person's rhythm, and then you take the space out of that person's rhythm and you play that on another instrument. So then you have basically a whole rhythm that's just dissected into parts into the different instruments. And these different rhythmic structures, they call them tumbaos. So every instrument, every main instrument within the salsa band is going to have its specific tumbao. So, for example, these are the fundamental tumbaos that we hear in salsa. We have the tumbao of the conga drum, which is kuku pak, kuku pak, kuku pak, kuku pak, kuku pak. This is an example of a tumbao from a conga. Then you have the tumbao from the piano, which is called the montuno, which sounds like this. Then you have the tumbao from the bass, which sounds like this. Then you have the tumbao from the bongo, which could sound like this. So if you notice, each one of these tumbaos, they repeat over and over again. Now, each one of them can have variations, and they do have variations, but the main thing is they have their main rhythmic structure that repeats over and over again. And when you put all these tumbaos together, you get the full context of what the rhythm sounds like. So let's start with the conga tumbao. I'm gonna play this conga tumbao so you can hear how it sounds individually and isolated, so you can really hear what the conga sounds like. Okay, perfect. So now I'm going to play the bongo so you can hear the martillo, which is the bongo's tumbao is called the martillo. So you can see exactly how the bongo tumbao sounds like. Okay, so now I'm going to play the piano montuno, which is the tumbao for the piano is called montuno. And I'm going to play this one so you can see exactly what the piano sounds like. Okay, so now for the last one, I'm going to play the bass tumbao so you can hear exactly what the bass player is playing for his tumbao and what it sounds like. Okay, perfect. So now I'm going to play all of these tumbaos together so you can really hear when all of these tumbaos interlock within each other, what the sound effect is and what you get when you combine all of the tumbaos. Listen to the pulse, listen to the tempo, listen to how the rhythms are intersecting and interacting with each other. This is the main concept of syncopation and polyrhythm that is very prominent within African conceptual forms of music theory. So take a listen to this. Okay, perfect. So now this is the perfect example of how you can sense the rhythmic loop. You know, when it comes to the African concepts of music theory, it's less about sheet music and reading sheet music, and it's more about sensing the music. This is one of the main reasons why you can have really great musicians that don't know how to read music. They might not know how to read music, but they still understand the language of music, but they're just approaching it from a different way. They're approaching the music not from what they're seeing conceptually, they're approaching it from their senses. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to play this song so you can hear all of these tumbaos in the context of a song. And I want you to hear if you can, I want you to see if you can sense the rhythmic loop within this song, if you can sense the tumbao, the rhythmic cycles that are recurring over and over again, creating that effect of that salsa music. Let's play this song and see if you can hear that within the song. Okay, so now the next concept of African music theory is called the clave. The clave is more than two sticks that you hit. It's a concept of music theory. It's a West African concept of music theory, and you can see this concept of clave, the concept of clave used a lot within African forms of music. Now, what the clave does is the clave isn't just a rhythm, it's a key. Just like llave in Spanish, it means key, clave. The clave is a key that connects all of the instruments together. This is why the clave is so important. Now, this notation right here, if you look at it, it might seem, if you haven't read music before, then it might look pretty weird, but all this is, it's showing two measures of music, right? One measure here, the other measure over here. The first measure contains 2 beats that you can hear in it. The second measure contains 3 beats that you can hear in it. So when you put it all together, it sounds like this. Da, 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 da. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. This is a basic clave, which is called the 2-3 clave. Now, when it comes to polyrhythm, all these instruments, remember, are playing all at the same time, especially within salsa music. So how do these instruments know when to start their tumbaos? How do they know when to end their tumbaos? How do they know when to come in? They're all listening to the reference of the clave. And this is what's so important when it comes to a sense of African music theory, is that all these instruments, all these musicians are listening to the key. And that's what keeps everybody in sync. So what would happen if you as a dancer were listening to this key as well? What would happen to your musicality? What would happen to your ability to connect to any salsa song? It would greatly increase, right? So now the concept of clave includes, of course, not just rhythm, but also direction. And this is the main thing that makes it so powerful when it comes to all of these different forms of salsa, from son, montuno, mambo, guaracha, all of these different forms and subgenres of salsa all have this clave in it. And even if you can't hear the clave is always there and it's always implied. So when it comes to the clave, you have a 3-2 clave and you have a 2-3 clave. These are basically switching the direction. And when it comes to switching the direction, you get a sense of knowing when to start and knowing when to end. You get a sense of going in a certain direction and starting that direction and staying in there, and then knowing when it's going to come out. For example, if the measure only didn't have a direction and only had notes in it that repeated, you wouldn't be able to tell when the measure starts. You wouldn't be able to find where the 1 is, because every beat is the same. So when it comes to the clave, these 2 measures create this sense of direction, because the first measure sounds more active and the second measure sounds more passive. So when musicians listen to that, they can easily hear the pulse and know when exactly to come in with their tumbao and when exactly to come out of their tumbao. So one thing that's very crucial when getting into this clave concept is the ability to hear the clave direction. Is the clave direction going 3-2 or is it going 2-3? So to practice this, let's use this song right here. I'm going to play this song, and the clave is very clear to hear. It's very clear to hear this clave, and I want you to see if you can guess which direction the clave is going in this song. Is the clave going 2-3 or is the clave going 3-2?
Por el camino del sitio mío, un carretero alegre pasó. Con sus tonadas
Okay, so if you got 2-3, then you got it correct. The clave is starting on 2-3, which means ta 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 ta. So you see, I'm starting. The song is composed and arranged in a way that the direction starts on the 2-3 side of the clave. So if I have my instrument and if I know my tumbao, then I know exactly where to come in if I wanted to play with this song. Exactly. If same thing if I'm a social dancer, if I know this is 2-3, I know exactly when to initiate my time step for my on-2 salsa, right? So that's the next thing that we're actually going to talk about is how do we apply these music theory concepts, when it comes to when we're going out dancing, how do we apply it to our time steps, to our actual break steps when it comes to dancing? And I'm going to show you one example of how this works. One example is using the bass tumbao. Now, when it comes to the music of son and the dance of son cubano, you can use the bass, that leading bass, that prominent leading bass sound to initiate your leading step that will go into your first break step. And this is some of the first ways that you can really start to get into the on-2 feel is by listening to that bass. And that bass actually will always start on the last beat of the 3 side of the clave. So what that means, the last beat of the 3 side of the clave means this. Let's say I have a 2-3 clave, right? Ba, 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 ba. On that last beat of the 3 side, ba, ba, ba. That's when I'm going to initiate my lead step that will go into my first break step that will be on 2. So I'm going to show you an example of this. I'm going to play a video of this couple dancing son cubano. And I want you in this video to really listen for the bass. Listen for the bass in the song. Listen to what the bass is doing and watch how his leading steps are reflecting the bass. And then he's stepping on the 2. See if you can see that within this video. So perfect. So this is a perfect example of how we can get in touch with the song without counting, without using any numbers, without reading sheet music. All we have to do is tune ourselves to the specific tumbao of an instrument, right? So now let's get into more of a European music theory conceptual way of listening to music that can be a practical application. And this has to do with counting. So when we talk about counting, we're really talking about the note values within our music. And the note values mean the whole notes, the half notes, the quarter notes, the eighth notes, and the 16th notes. So if this is your first time seeing these notes or hearing about these, this is just a way to count the beats within any given measure so you can stay in sync with the music. So for example, if I have a measure of music and there's 4 beats in it and all those beats are quarter notes, then I would count that just 1, 2, 3, 4. But now if I have that same measure and there's 8 beats in it and they're eighth notes, I would count it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? If I have that same measure and there's 1 beat in it, which is a whole note, I would just count it 1. So you see, this is just ways that we count. And when it comes to counting, Counting really helps in a practical way for social dancers when it comes to choreography, because then we can associate the different parts of our choreography with specific numbers. And that can really help us to build choreography, to build certain patterns and phrases and sequences of our choreography so we know exactly what counts each steps are hitting on. So I'm going to show you in this video, this instructor using more of the European approach to dancing by counting the numbers with their steps. Now remember, this is more of the European musical theory approach because they're using the numbers as opposed to sensing the instrumental tumbaos, right? So watch how you can use these numbers to really help you stay in sync with this side of the music theory concept.
2, 3, lock, 4 and 1 and walk, walk, cha cha 1 and walk, walk, cha cha 1. Check, back lock, cha cha 1, walk, walk, cha cha 1, walk, walk, cha cha 1.
Okay, so in conclusion, we went over some of the more European approaches to music theory when it comes to reading music, when it comes to time signatures, when it comes to counting note values, right? And we also went over some of the more African approaches to music theory when it comes to sensing the rhythmic tumbaos, really getting in tune with each instrument's tumbao and really hearing how they're syncing with each other, and also the concept of clave, having that polyrhythm work by listening to one key that has a direction within the music that keeps everybody in sync so they know when to give their voice. These are both important concepts when it comes to On2 salsa musicality. Because of the fusion of cultures within this dance, it's important to be able to think in both ways, to think in the more European music theory way and also to think in the more of the African music theory way. This all helps to improve your musicality. All right, everybody. So we're going to wrap things up. I really want to hear from the people who are here attending. I want to hear what you think about these ideas, what you think about music theory. Please write your answers in the chat if you're there, if you want to participate, if you have any questions. This is the time for some questions. If you had anything, any comments that you wanted to say about these different music theory concepts, feel free to write in the chat. And just to go over what we talked about today, we talked about the intertwining of the different theories within this dance. And when it comes to On2 salsa dancing, the mix between the European music theory concept and the more African aesthetics of music theory. We talked about the note values. We also talked about time signature, tumbao, the instrumental tumbao, the concept of clave, and some practical uses. So if anybody has any questions or any takeaways from this, let me know if this is valuable to you at all. We do have our On2 Accelerator course that is happening. And to the people who stayed to the end of this, I have a deal for you for our July course that's coming up. So you get all of the, oh, okay, we have, let's see. Kia says, this was really helpful. I struggle with finding the one when I get off count. I really want to learn more about this. Yes, finding the one is so essential. It's actually the foundation before really getting the two. It's like we have to find the one, meaning that we have to situate ourselves within the meter of the song. And that's why the time signature is so important, and understanding the tumbao, understanding the loops of the tumbao. If you can hear the loops, meaning that if you can hear when the tumbao comes back to the beginning for each instrument, then that gives you instant access to the details of that song, to the essence of the song. It syncs you to the meter of the song. So whether it's the conga loop, kukum, pak, kukum, pak, kukum. If you could see that it loops at here, that beginning, that will be the one. And then you count in that time signature, within that time signature, which is always 4/4, you know that that second beat is going to be your 2. So then that's more of a way. Doing it the time signature way is more of the intellectual way, you know, sort of like the sheet music way. But you can also find it by sensing the different rhythms and feeling the leading notes, feeling the leading beats. So all of this should really help if you really want to get on2 dancing and really want to get the one as well. So thanks, Kia, for that takeaway. So we have our On2 Accelerator course starting in July. And for the people who are participating in this webinar, you get all of these tiers for a very low price. So if you're interested, get in touch with me. And if you really want to build your On2, if you really want some good feedback and you want all the resources and tools to really get your On2 in a short amount of time, I've developed a really good program for that. So next week, I hope that y'all come next week. This is going to be all about On2 body mechanics and really how to prepare your body for the time steps. And this is why I teach this in this sequence, because before learning the actual steps, it's so important to prepare the body, right? So that once you add the steps, once you add the steps, then the body comes along with it. And once you add the body movement, which is the body isolation, the contrary body motion, that's essential for salsa. Once you add that, when you put the steps along with it, everything just happens naturally, and you can really get that essence and that aesthetic of the Afro-Latin dance. So I want to thank everybody for coming to this webinar. And if there's any more questions, let me know. Other than that, I'll end it there. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Una pruebita. ¿Quién presenta?
Viene por el